Yes, welcome into Sports Bet Betting Insight today, weekend preview edition. Pauly and Teddy, deep dive, more NFL news and notes. Who wants to go 4-1 this week with the play of the day? I do. All right, we'll get to that and big game breakdown. We got the Cardinals and the Chargers, the Dolphins and the Cowboys, and that huge series continues in Detroit. The Red Sox and the Tigers, a great pitching matchup. All that coming up. A moose in New England last night. Oh my God, Teddy. How about the finish? The Bears get the money.
They sure did. The Bears and the over gets there as well on that final play of the game. 12-play, 88-yard drive led by Connor Shaw. Converted a 4th and 10 on a QB scramble. How much have we talked this week here on Sportsnet about how valuable mobile quarterbacks are in the fourth quarter of our preseason games? And then, of course, he threw the 22-yard point spread covering touchdown pass to B.J. Daniels with zeros on the clock and hits the 2-point conversion as well. Remember, the line closed 3. Could have been a push. Wasn't a push. Bears get the money. Of course, a lot of money came in right before kickoff when it was announced that Brady was out. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show.
Yes, great information on this show. We've been telling you the last 2 weeks about Mike Tomlin. The Steelers with another no-show. He didn't care. He didn't play anybody. Tomlin now 2-13 straight up the last 3 years in the preseason. 9 of those losses by double digits. Bad for the books, the Eagles, and the under. No problem there. And Landry Jones. Didn't you say yesterday you weren't concerned about Landry Jones? How many picks did he throw?
I think it was 4. No, he only played a half. So, But, of course, Landry Jones was playing with backup offensive linemen, wide receivers shuttling in and out of the game. You don't blame it all on the quarterback. That being said, he did throw a pick 6 as well as 2 in the end zone, which certainly helped the sportsbet play of the day with the under. That was the nuts in that ballgame. Really wasn't a sweat. But we've talked about Tomlin. I read you the quote. I read you the quote on yesterday's show. It was as plain as could be. When a coach says he doesn't care, he doesn't care. And Mike Tomlin didn't care. And that's how you make money betting preseason football. You throw out your opinions and you bet against the coaches that really don't care.
I didn't understand why the Browns were favored. You talked about Austin Davis with a concussion, which meant a lot more time for Kessler, who struggled again, and Sims lit it up for the Falcons. Falcons went outright.
Well, I understand why Cleveland was favored. There were really 3 reasons why the Browns were favored in that ballgame. One, RG3 went a half. They had the second stringers on the field throughout the third quarter. So it was Atlanta's third stringers outplaying Cleveland's second stringers in that ballgame. But throughout the contest, in theory, the Browns were supposed to have the personnel advantage. Second reason they were favored, there's a trend. And one of the things that the wise guys do, or one of the things that some of the syndicates do, or some of the quote-unquote sharp money, and I gave you guys a homework assignment over the break that we took this summer saying, read this book. It's going to explain what the sharp money is actually thinking. And one of the things the sharp money likes to do, they look at 10 and 20-year sample sizes and trends. And one of the trends is 0-1 team at home versus 1-0 team on the road in the preseason. And supposedly over the last however many years, that's cashed at 63% of the time and yada, yada. And lo and behold, you have Cleveland as the favorite over Atlanta. And the third reason is that if you watch the game, you saw it, the Browns really wanted to win. They were trying. They were trying hard. They went for it on 4th down, in the 4th and goal spot. Couldn't get there. Yeah. So it meant more for the Browns than it did for the Falcons. But that being said, the Browns weren't good enough to win. I had some Atlanta in my pocket. I hope you did, and yours as well.
Yes, a great start for the home teams in Major League Baseball. The first 7 home teams won. A lot of the home teams got there. One of them, the Cubbies, easy money again, Teddy. They cover the run line. Huge. Aaron didn't pitch well. He walked the ballpark, but Bryant went 5 for 5 with 2 home runs. Second time this year he's gone 5 for 5.
When the Cubs are hitting, you're not going to beat them. Doesn't even matter. And when their starting pitching has been as good as it's been throughout the month of August, they entered yesterday's play. I think their ERA from their starters in their last dozen games was like $1.14 or something. I mean, ridiculously sick numbers. Arrieta wasn't sharp. Didn't matter. Boy, the Cubs have played some pretty good ball since the All-Star break, and they're showing, again, why they are favorites to win it all come October.
How about the Mets and the Giants? I mean, that thing was 8-4 in the fifth inning, and Mad Bum hits another home run. He got him going. He gave up the grand slam, came all the way back in the fifth inning with his home run. Unbelievable.
Well, I mean, this tweet from ESPN Stats and Info says it all.
Yep.
All right. In their careers, three active players in baseball, have home runs against Clayton Kershaw, Zach Greinke, and Jacob deGrom. Those three players, well, you got Giancarlo Stanton, one of the best power hitters, maybe the best power hitter. Carlos Gonzalez, he's right there with Stanton, elite power hitter. And, who's the third guy? Mad Bum. Maybe he should have played in the home run derby.
No kidding. That's a great tweet there. That was, he's something, man. Up next, big game breakdown. 2 NFL games, and we'll start with the big game in Detroit, Porcello and Fulmer. That's coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Hey, SportsBit viewers. Yesterday, Mike Renner had a big winning day. I had a losing day. But again, overall, we continue to chug along. Both of us up double digits in August.
August equals profit.
I don't know what more to say. Tune into the Friday show today, August 19th. A bunch of picks I'm liking. Mike Renner, a couple picks you're liking?
Absolutely. And when you guys are all done over there with Teddy and Pauly, come on over and visit us because I got news for you. We got some ticket cashers.
Back on SportsBit, Pauly and Teddy. Time for big game breakdown. As always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Red Sox and the Tigers. Porcello against Fulmer. Tigers $1.10, 8.5 the total. That horrific scheduling spot yesterday for the Red Sox off the rain delay in the night game in Baltimore. The early start in Detroit, competitive game. Tazawa blew it. 3-1 in the bottom of the eighth. Farrell, what are you doing? Ziegler was ready to go and rested. Why didn't he start the inning? 3 spot. Tigers win 4-3. Can't lose games like that in late August. Bad loss by the Red Sox. Tigers rally to win 4-3. And now it doesn't get any easier as they go against Fulmer, who's red hot.
Yeah, I mean, Tazawa, he needed to work. He'd only faced 2 batters in the previous week. So the culprit was actually the freshest guy on the team, which obviously wasn't good news for Boston. All 3 batters that he faced got hits, and all 3 came around to score. But you talk about Michael Fulmer, and again, this is a guy that we've been tracking all year long here on SportsBit. Look at his last 15 starts, all right? He's allowed 1 run or none in 11 of those 15 starts. He's allowed 2 runs twice during that span. Those are some of his worst. He allowed 3 in 1. He allowed 4 in 1. The guy hasn't allowed more than 4 runs in a start in his last 15, and 11 of those times he's held opponents to 1 run or less. We're talking about more than 100 innings of work and a .43 ERA. Anytime a pitcher is under an ERA of 2 over a stretch of 100 innings, we're talking about superb. Under a .50? This is amazing what he's doing. And he is coming off his first complete game, a 7-0 shutout versus Texas, which is a concern. But he did it in 112 pitches. We're not talking about he was stretched out to a .20 here. Fatigue shouldn't be an issue for Fulmer tonight.
He might be, you could call him a Johnny-come-lately, but Porcello's been grinding all year, and we know at home the Red Sox are 13-0 when he starts in Fenway, but this guy in the Cy Young discussion, 16-3 with a 3.30 ERA. He's worked into the 7th inning in 7 straight starts, Teddy. He's living up to that big contract this year.
Sure, and he's not just being effective, he's also aiding the bullpen. When you go into the 7th and 7 straight games, you're not just eating up innings. You're eating up innings and keeping the pen fresh. Now, it's worth noting, Porcello had a long and checkered career in Detroit. He came up in the Tigers organization. He was supposed to be an ace. There were times he showed signs. There were many times he did not show signs. Up and down. This will be his first time back in Detroit since beginning his career with the Tigers, or since arriving in Boston, I should say. And the fact that we're talking about Porcello back at Tiger Stadium, maybe a distraction for a guy who's been, as you mentioned, unhittable in Fenway, not so unhittable elsewhere.
Yeah, or he's pissed off and wants to get back at his former team. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. NFL now. This game's on NFL Network. The Dolphins in Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Cowboys 40.5 the total. Look at this. Romo's going to play. A quote from Jason Garrett. I think Tony did an outstanding job. He came in ready to go. He did more in the offseason program than he's been able to do over the last couple or 3 years. That showed. He was sharp from the outset. He looks fresh to me. He's moving around well, and he's throwing the ball well. What do you think of this decision, Teddy?
I'm not surprised that you're going to see Tony Romo get some playing time. He's not going to get a ton. But the fact is, it's meaningful. Coming off an injury is different for a veteran quarterback than just trying to get a little bit of work in. And Romo, as you talked about in that quote, has certainly practiced well. Let's talk about this quote from Tony Romo himself. You always want to be perfect. At the same time, there's a constant evolution about putting new plays in, constant thinking and challenging yourself, but yet staying within the system. Then it's time to go play. You tighten everything up, you simplify it, you go out there and do it. From day to day, that's always the mental part of it that you're trying to assess. But I'm excited about what we did here in training camp. I feel very confident going in. Words are meaningless. You got to go prove it. All that being said, the lack of depth on defense is still a major issue for the Dallas Cowboys. We certainly saw that in the second half last week when they blew a 3-score lead against the LA Rams.
And the Dolphins are ready to hit somebody other than themselves. I mean, they are agitated and ready to go. This is from Barry Jackson, Miami Herald. They ended training camp with a lot of anger. 3 separate fights broke out in a 30-minute period. Landry and McCain exchanged punches in the first drill. Landry said nothing personal, no hard feelings. The second fight was a Donnybrook involving more than 20 players. What the hell's going on there, Gase?
Well, here's the quote. Here's one from Tannehill. Let's start there. I like to see a little bit of that, a little bit of attitude, a little bit of swagger. We're not going to take crap, said Tannehill. We don't want 4 or 5 in a practice, but a little bit of that is okay. And Adam Gase didn't object. The head coach says, it's all right. It's football. It happens. No one got hurt. I don't want that to happen every day, but it's going to happen once in a while. One guy makes a play and starts talking. Bobby's not going to take that. He's, I don't even know which one. Oh, Bobby McClain was talking about with Jarvis. But, a lot of offense, defense stuff. And when you're talking about the end of training camp, these guys have been hitting each other for 3 weeks. They're ready to hit somebody else. The Dolphins, in particular, appear ready to hit somebody else.
And the angry coach angle, Gase was ticked off at his team, the first team offense, after what happened in the game against the Giants. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. One more, NFL. Cardinals and the Chargers. Chargers 1.5, 40.5 the total. The teams have been practicing with each other this week. Arians released from the hospital after a brief stay. He'll be at the game. You're not going to see much out of Carson Palmer or the skill guys, but the backup quarterbacks really struggled last week, Teddy.
To say they weren't good against the Raiders is being a little bit kind. Drew Stanton, and Stanton's going to be the backup. It doesn't matter, but Drew Stanton, Matt Barkley, Jake Coker combined 12 of 35 against Oakland. And Stanton's been a starter. He's been a starter in Arizona. He's got the number 2 job, but there's a legit competition here for the number 3 job between Barkley and Coker. And frankly, the pressure's on Barkley to show something. He's been inconsistent in practice. He had trouble throwing a simple out route against Oakland. This is one game where Matt Barkley needs to play well, or he might not be in the NFL next week. And of course, they'll get the work because Carson Palmer already got plenty of reps this week, although without contact. We've talked repeatedly on SportsBit how for many of these teams, the joint practice sessions is a bigger deal than the ball game. This game certainly has that feel to it because all the starters got their work in battling during the week.
Chargers like how Keenan Allen has looked. He's back from injury, and that is great news for the Chargers and Phillip Rivers.
Oh, yeah, it sure is. Allen was as good as any receiver in the NFL over the first half of the 2015 season. 67 passes in 7 games, 725 yards, 4 TDs. He had a Week 8 kidney laceration that ended his season. But from all indications, Keenan Allen, he didn't just have a good camp. He's had a great camp and is looking to pick up right where he left off with a pretty good quarterback in Phillip Rivers.
Yes, all right.
Worth noting, he caught a couple of touchdowns against Patrick Peterson, Arizona star cornerback, in the team scrimmages.
All right, rapid fire, 3 games there. NFL news in the deep dive when we try to make it a 4-in-1 week with the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com. Hey guys, it's that time of year again, football season. And with that, let's hear from everyone's favorite prick.
If you like Captain American football, there's 50,000 dead presidents on the line in this year's Beat the Prick contest. In case you ain't fucking guessed, I'm the prick. Click on the link below for more info. I'm ready to stomp some ass. This is going to be my best performance yet. So join today. It's free, you fucking squares.
Back on SportsBit, time for the deep dive. NFL, Brady didn't play. Not because of a Belichick decision. He was supposed to play. Sliced his right thumb with a pair of scissors before the game, cleaning his cleats. Tom, they got people that can do that for you.
Yeah, but I like the fact that Brady cleans his own cleats.
No.
And I think if this is a regular season game, he might have played. But, he was expected to start against the Bears. He didn't play at all in that preseason opener against New Orleans. Now, when he didn't take the field for warm-ups and was seen leaving the stadium in regular clothes, it was clear that something was amiss for Brady. But, it's not known whether the cut required stitches or how long it's going to keep him out. But one has to think now there's a little bit of pressure for New England to get him some playing time in Week 3 or Week 4. Week 4 of the preseason tends to be a throwaway game for most teams. Might not be for New England this year, especially if Brady still has that finger injury next week. I thought Garoppolo looked real good again in week number 2 of the preseason, and I think that New England may be an undervalued commodity with Brady off the field. But when it comes to the preseason, this guy's got to get some playing time. He needs something before sitting out those first 4 games of the regular season.
They'll beat Arizona on the road week 1 Sunday night with Garoppolo. All right. Good move by Kubiak here. Simeon will start Saturday in the second preseason game with the Broncos. This competition's real.
Yeah, and again, we love the backup competitions a little bit more than we love the starting competitions.
Yes.
But it is worth noting, I don't think either quarterback separated themselves in any real way last week in that win over the Bears. Denver's offense was plodding and pedestrian in that ballgame. Let's just put it that way. But here's a situation where each of the 2 quarterbacks, they're not just getting a quarter. They're going to get a quarter and a half. So you're going to see Denver with guys who will be getting playing time once the regular season starts. They're going to be on the field throughout the third quarter of a preseason game here. And you wonder, could Simeon become the fan favorite? Sanchez is going to be the guy. But you wonder if the home crowd starts rooting for him, if that's going to influence the decision-making later. I don't think that it will, but it could.
The Saints started the week by losing first-round rookie defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins for the season, most likely, and they couldn't afford to have any more bad news. Well, that's exactly what happened with a bad practice day against the Texans.
Oh, it wasn't bad. It was a really bad day. Okay, the cornerback, Delvin Breaux, he limped off the field and was carted off after pulling up while covering DeAndre Hopkins in a joint practice. Then the right tackle, Zach Strief, went down. And the cornerback, P.J. Williams, went down. And, of course, cornerback Keenan Lewis has already been hurt. All of a sudden, this team's really short on cornerbacks when it comes to cluster injuries for a preseason game. And you don't necessarily want to be betting on a team that has cluster injuries at cornerback at any point in the preseason. It might be worse. Now, it was a very hot day in Houston, and there were perhaps heat-related issues as a contributing factor in some of those injury concerns. But I really wonder if the Saints are looking just to survive this preseason game with the Texans on Saturday without incurring any further damage, or if they're really going to come out and try to beat them. It seems to me a little bit more of the former than the latter.
Okay, now what in the world's going on here? Kaepernick has been ruled out Saturday for the 49ers. They take on Denver. How do you have a dead arm this early into the season? This is ridiculous. Chip thinks he'll play week 3. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Well, what's going on is that Kaepernick's losing money, man. This is the guy who signed that big fat extension and who took his team to the Super Bowl and was one play away from winning a Super Bowl title. And in a matter of 2 or 3 years, he's, played himself onto the bench. Dead arm, I can't tell you what the medical term for a dead arm is. I do know this, the quote from Chip Kelly. They're easing him back into the throwing right now. He'll throw a little bit more today, see how he feels, and continue to progress him. And hopefully we can get him back full next week, looking less and less likely that Colin Kaepernick is going to be the starting quarterback for San Francisco on day 1 of the regular season.
Yeah, they wanted to trade him, and they couldn't do it because of the contract, but maybe they're just like, we don't want you here, and we're not going to play you. Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised. That's a dumpster fire in San Francisco ever since they got rid of Harbaugh. All right, let's make it a 4-1 week, Teddy. Money time. Play of the day. Where are we going?
No, you've been hot, man. You got to give it. I'll give the play. You give the rationale. Number 920, the Detroit Tigers minus 110. What do we got, Paul?
Porcello money at home, but he's not dynamite on the road. We mentioned all Fulmer stats. Again, the long road trip continues for the Red Sox. Fulmer's been on a roll. We'll go against Porcello on the road. Huge game here for the Tigers. We'll take the Tigers at home with a hot pitcher for the play of the day in a 4-1 week. All right, enjoy all the NFL action. We'll be back Monday to recap and preview as we get that another week closer to dress rehearsal, week 3 of the NFL preseason. And we're a week away from the start of college football. Yes, there's a game in Sydney, Australia next week with Hawaii and Cal. Have a good one. We'll see you next time on SportsBit, betting insight today on SBRPicks.com.